Hey everybody, my name is Rydo, and today we're starting a series for The Secret of Monkey Island. We'll start in just a minute, but I wanted to give a little backstory. I just tried to play Disney Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, a old PS2 game that was in 3D graphics, and I could not get 1/3 of the way through that game. It was so badly programmed, looked awful, pretended to be kid friendly, but was actually not very kid friendly in the way it played, nor really that kid friendly in what it was asking kids to do, because it was having you play poker and dice and things. And I'm not sure Monkey Island is going to be extensively still for the before 10-year-old age, but it is rated E or E10 plus, so it is somewhat kid friendly. The Secret of Monkey Island came out originally in 1990. This is the special edition that came out in 2009. It's now 2017, so you're talking a complete remake was made about 8 years ago, and it is, because the complete remake was made about 8 years ago, it's still very playable. The fact that this game was originally 2D graphics, it let them have the exact same game just with new graphics, a lot easier than it would probably be to take the exact same game and remake it if it had 3D graphics. Also, the Monkey Island series is pretty popular, so that's why something that came back all the way in 1990 for PC, it can get a remake, whereas things that are just movie tie-ins. So we're still kind of playing because of the new Pirates of the Caribbean movie, which probably should be out by now, although I just heard that there's a possibility somebody stole it and they were going to put it online for free anyways. So that'll be interesting. Now, this game does have Xbox 360 controller, but it is slightly held back in the Steam version, in which it only tells you the mouse and keyboard keys, so no button prompts. That's alright. We'll figure them all out, and have already figured out all the controls. So same thing here. All of the setup doesn't change because you're using a controller, but the controller does work. There's subtitles, which you had to have on by default in the original version of the game because there was no voice acting. We recently played another game in this series of games that were made by LucasArts using what's called the SCUM engine, script creation utility for Maniac Mansion. So Maniac Mansion was the first one to use that engine. And in Day of the Tentacle, which was the other game that we recently played, there was a special edition where you could go back and forth between the old version and the new version. You'll see that since the old version in this case doesn't have any audio, it really crosses a line for me that I just wouldn't want to play the game without voice acting and have to read everything. I'm not exactly sure what the special effects do, but this special edition got up to 1080p resolution and higher, and it's in full screen by default for me, so I'll leave all of that. There's 2 credits in case you want the classic or the regular credits, and so not really a lot of setup to begin with. Let's just play the game. So this is the 1990 version. This is what it looked like. And remember, when you had a low resolution screen, pixels were bigger, so it wasn't relatively this small of text. Now, I will say that the credits that you're seeing are definitely not from the 1990 version. This is the 2009 version. It's really strange they made the remake 19 years after the game came out, when they could have just gone one more year and released it 20-year anniversary. I mean, I wouldn't begrudge them to wait all the way to a 25th year anniversary, but they missed that and really didn't do anything then. maybe they had a cell or something of the same game. It is kind of also weird. Each of the Monkey Island series of games stand pretty well by themselves. You don't really need to know too much about the previous games, but unfortunately there are 2 games that, as far as I can find, are not available on Steam. So there's 5 games in the series, and they're all named. So it's The Secret of Monkey Island, The Curse of Monkey Island, no, it's The Secret of Island, Monkey Island is 1. Then 2 is The Secret of Monkey Island 2, LeChuck's Revenge. 3 is called The Curse of Monkey Island. And 4 is called Escape from Monkey Island. 3 and 4 are not available on Steam. So maybe we'll see a remaster of those at some point in the future. That'd be nice. But it's a little weird too, because this was a LucasArts game, which is now owned by Disney. This is just a little intro section. So the Disney game I just played is now very appropriately getting compared to what Disney has bought. That's the same name, Scumbar. They're referencing the script creation utility for a Maniac Mansion. So they're starting you with a very basic setup here. Who is the character you're playing as, and what are you supposed to do? And he's saying go to the Scumbar. A very simplistic setup. And we're into the game. And my mouse is messing up, so I'll have to turn that upside down. I've not seen this before. So I can walk here to him, or I can talk to him with a right click. We'll use the mouse for a moment, which you could still control with the controller too, but we can just go through all these conversation pieces.
Do you ever wonder if we're all just characters in a novel?
Yikes! Oh, you almost scared me to death. I thought you were a... Oh, never mind. What did you say your name was again?
It's starting over. He's just responding to the same things.
Call me Squinky.
So the fun in this game is not through action. This is a point-and-click adventure game, and your dialogue is, and your entertainment is through picking these quirky responses. If you haven't seen a point-and-click adventure game, there's been a lot of them in the day, but this is one of the earliest ones. They trademark everything as a joke. Let's see.
Why is the governor worried about unexpected visitors?
Actually, it's the expected visitors we're worried about. One pirate captain in particular. A dead one, but that doesn't make him any less dangerous.
How do you get to be a lookout when you're obviously blind as a bat?
How did you get to be the lookout when you're obviously blind as a bat?
Watch your tongue. I was handpicked by Sheriff Shinetop.
I'm over here.
Huh? Oh.
And see, we can exhaust all of the dialogue.
I'll just be off to seek my fortune now.
Good luck.
So here, let's show the comparison of what the game would have looked like originally. And in Day of the Tentacle, with the different audio, there would have been a real reason, I feel, to do this. But you'd have to be incredibly nostalgic to put up with what is probably only 32 pixels to show Guybrush Threepwood's face. in comparison, he's been completely redrawn. Everybody has. They know the general idea and they don't try to stray too far from the character, but I would say Guybrush is probably depicted as a little bit younger. Maybe the old version has mutton chops, but it's really hard to tell with this old technology. The difference, of course, also with the resolution is that you have a manual cursor here and the screen is zoomed in to give you these verbs where you can do different things, give something, open something, close something, pick something up, look at it, talk to it, use it, push or pull, and then several item slots for inventory. And if you fill your inventory, this is up and down the cycle through. So if I wanted to talk to the lookout here, which is the default thing anyways, so if I just right click on them, it should let me do that, but it's not. So here's the problem. No music, as far as I can hear, is playing, and no dialogue is playing. So we may, throughout each scene, just do a quick zoom in and zoom out to see what's going on, but that's about it. Options, controls. We won't be skipping any cutscenes or anything like that. Man, I do not know what is wrong with my controller. Let me see if I can unplug it and plug it back in. Sorry to have technical difficulties, but I swear I played this before and it wasn't having that issue. And is it just the mouse? Sometimes if you bump a mouse, it will reset to a center point and override what a controller is doing. Come on, turn off mouse. Nope, just turned the mouse off completely. Maybe it will just happen in this area, and then when we walk out of this area, it will stop happening. Could also be because I had the controller, the mouse on the corner to start with. So, again, completely redrawn. Governor Marley here looks pretty different, but the general concepts are the same.
Re-elect Governor Marley. When there's only one candidate, there's only one choice.
So, other things you have in the controller, or without, you have your left bump to switch your verbs. These are the same verbs. The difference is instead of them being small in the lower part of the screen at all times, it's now a selection wheel effectively, although it's a selection grid. And say I wanted to pick up this, you see the icon has changed now. So if I want to pick up this poster,
I can't pick that up.
it'll just tell me no. And that's kind of how a lot of interactions are going to end. You'll get default that doesn't seem to work things.
I can't move it.
You can see if you can look at it.
Re-elect Governor Marley.
It's the same thing. That was the default thing.
There's only one choice.
There's no open. You could talk to it and see if he says something funny. A lot of times the part of playing point and click adventure games is to have the entertainment value. Also, you can use left trigger instead of left bump. Now on the right side, you have your inventory. So you could do both at the same time if necessary, which it is very possible that you would want to push something in your inventory. The back button on the controller switches between this and this. The D-pad doesn't do anything. The left stick moves your mouse. The right stick also moves your mouse cursor. A button clicks the regular mouse. B button should right click.
Re-elect Governor Marley.
Here we're doing the same thing over and over again, which is
Only one choice.
pretty typical in a point-and-click adventure. And then the X button gives you hints, but not just tapping it. You have to hold for hints. So we'll just go ahead and hold. You should go to the scum bar, and seems to be 3 levels of hint system. The scum bar is through that door below the sign that says scum bar. Click open the door and then click walk through the door. And we haven't even seen the scum bar here. Let's start walking. And this is the beginning of Guybrush Threepwood's playthrough adventures. So here's the scum bar. It looks pretty different from here, but it still works the same. Right click should open the door, and left click will walk through it. And this is a pretty famous scene for fans of Monkey Island. Of course, it's more famous in this version, but you've got several people to talk to, several pirates, but not exactly all of them that you would ever hear of. You don't have to talk to all 10 or 20 people here.
I don't think it's wise to wake a sleeping pirate.
So these 2 are sleeping, you don't have to talk to them.
I don't want to bother them.
I don't want to bother them, that's easy
I'll be
enough.
listening to the guy on the left.
Here's the server. This guy is not one you can click on. Let's see. This guy's not a guy you can talk to. This is a guy to talk to. And this is a guy you can talk to. And when we switch back this way, just want to see something. Let's talk to these people.
What are you looking at me for?
I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Guybrush. Excuse me, but I'm looking for the dartboard. Where can I get a drink? Let's just go through it all.
I'd like to introduce myself. My name's Guybrush.
Yeah. So what?
What happened to your eye? Good question.
What happened to your eye?
Well, I was putting in my contact lens when... Hey, wait a second. That is none of your business.
Looks like he's might have a pearl or a diamond in his eye.
Excuse me, but I'm looking for the dartboard.
Dartboard? We don't have one anymore. There was a horrible accident. Drinking and darts don't mix.
Ironically, it kind of does. There are a lot of dartboards in alcohol serving establishments.
Where can I get a drink?
A drink? You could wait for the cook to notice you. That would take all day. Just find a mug and sneak into the kitchen. That is what we all do.
Sorry to bother you. Bye.
Right.
So, if we need a drink at some point, we now know we need to find a mug and sneak into the kitchen. Let's talk to this guy. Ask me about Loom. So the thing about Loom is it is another point-and-click adventure game, although it did have an interesting musical system. Kind of like a mini-generation predecessor to Ocarina of Time, in which you would play music to do other things. It wasn't amazingly popular, but it was the game that came out right before this one, and it's moderately worth mentioning. In the remake, they thought about changing it to something else than Ask Me About Loom. Instead, it was going to be for Star Wars The Force Unleashed, which I recently just covered also, which was a game that LucasArts was about to put out. And they decided against that, and then when the game went out, they decided to put Loom on Steam too. I wouldn't recommend playing Loom until you'd have exhausted or grown a large amount of nostalgia for old point-and-click adventure games, because it is going to look like this. Now, you could also make a small complaint about artistic style, going from what is effectively, for the time, a realistic, detailed picture into a low polygon, soft, visible brush stroke artistic style, which is what we're seeing here in this face. So let's say, tell me about Loom.
So, tell me about Loom.
You mean the latest masterpiece of fantasy storytelling from Lucasfilm's Brian Moriarty? Why, it's an extraordinary adventure.
They weren't even called LucasArts back then.
Stunning, high-resolution 3D landscapes, sophisticated score, and musical effects. Not to mention the detailed animation.
Kind of a difficult
special
game.
effects, elegant point-and-click control of characters, objects, and magic spells.
Very, very ambitious.
Beat the rush. Go out and buy Loom today.
Jeez, what an obvious sales pitch.
Jeez, what an obvious sales pitch.
Sorry, but on some topics I just get carried away.
Eye yourself.
I,
Nice hat.
I,
Nice talking to you.
I.
All he says is I. So, we have the dog. We can talk to the dog. Spiffy growling at me. So I can say woof, arf, ruff, or grr. Let's just respond in kind.
Grr.
Interesting effect there where it scrolled left and right. It wouldn't have done that in the 2D graphics. I don't think. So let's walk this way. And you have to kind of point your cursor further to move to the next screen. Now in the old version, suppose you just click here. Hey, it does have scrolling in the old version. That's certainly something I didn't remember. Blue, green, black. Blue, green, black. So, important looking pirates. These are the people I bet I need to talk to if I want to become a pirate. Or I could look at the fireplace.
Cozy.
Yes, that cozy fireplace. So let's talk to these guys.
What be ye want, boy?
I want to be a fireman. I mean to kill you all. I want to be a pirate.
I want to be a fireman.
I'll get lost, boy. You bother us.
So I can respond in
What be ye want?
different ways, but sometimes it will end your conversation.
I mean to kill you all.
I'll get lost, boy. You bother us.
So wrong answers don't hurt you in a game like this. Now, unlike Scum games, there were Sierra games that were direct competitor of point-and-click adventures. They are also point-and-click adventures, but they were laden with things and actions that if you took would game over you, and you would have to load from a save if you were smart enough to have saved. And in Sierra games, you need to save every 5 minutes because even walking in one step to the left might kill you in some place. Scum games never really took on that mentality. They're here for entertainment and adventure, not for actually giving you a challenge. The only way you can not beat a game like this is by completely forgetting what you're supposed to do, and the hint system that's added in the special edition makes that pretty difficult, or just getting completely confused and unable to think the way the game developer was thinking and figure out what they want you to do. If you can do those two, if you can avoid those two things, you will beat a game. It may just take you a little bit longer, and it may require you to wander around certain areas looking for certain items or certain people to talk to.
I want to be a pirate.
So,
I want to be a pirate.
hey, don't forget we're short on help because because of this whole chuck thing. So, no pirates means no swag, and no swag means no grog.
Swag.
And we're getting dangerously low on
Wow, this might be one of the earliest video game uses of the word swag.
special skills.
I can hold my breath for 10 minutes.
Well, all right, but you don't become a pirate just by asking. You'll have to go through the 3 trials.
What 3 trials are those?
There are 3 trials every pirate must pass. You must master the sword, and the art of thievery, and the quest.
The what?
Treasure hunting, you sea urchin. Right. You must prove yourself in each of these 3 areas. Swordplay, thievery, and treasure huntery. Then return with proof that you've done it. And then you must drink grog with us. Grog!
So I am gonna have to get grog at some point.
Tell me more about mastering the sword.
First, get ye a sword. You must seek out and defeat the sword master. Someone in town can probably direct you.
So they're giving you just the very beginning of that quest.
I want to find somebody to train you first. Imagine trying to take on the sword master without any training.
So one of the things that's kind of interesting is I think we'll probably find a few items as we wander around that will be for the trial of sword mastery, and at the same time we may find a few items that help with the thievery and find some things that help with the treasure hunting, and we'll make some small amounts of progress in each of those in parallel instead of doing it like you might do in a modern game where they would say you have to become a sword master and lock you into a level and only focus on the sword master and not even tell you what the next trial is, just to keep the player's attention very narrowly focused. That doesn't work in point click adventures because then the game becomes so easy and so linear that the actual gameplay mechanic of it being a little bit puzzling gets thrown out the window.
Tell me more about mastering the art of thievery.
We want you to procure a small item for us. The idol of many hands in the governor's mansion. The governor keeps the idol of many hands in a display case in the mansion outside the town. You'll have to get past the guards, naturally. The tricky part will be getting past the dogs outside. Aye, they're particularly vicious. You might be able to drug them or something.
So I will say playing as nasty pirates and potentially drugging a dog and drinking grog, it's played off a lot more mature than, say, comparison Jake and the Neverland Pirates, where you have pirates that are talking about friendship and how they don't steal anything and they share everything, and I'm like, oh, if you've ever seen it, they really spit in the face of what a true pirate is. But also Jake and the Neverland Pirates are appropriate for younger kids, 2, 3, 4, 5-year-olds, where here you're more approaching slightly before 10, but not that much, maybe an 8-year-old, because they've got to have at least a moderate distinction between actions that are okay to replicate and actions that are fun to do in imaginary games and not acceptable in the real world. So I hardly really call this game a kid's game, but I couldn't really find another pirate game that would be a good spin for Disney's pirate game, and Disney's Pirate of the Caribbean at World's End, and that really wasn't a kid's game either. So we're kind of stepping away from the kid-friendly stuff for a while.
Tell me more about treasure hunting.
I think a kid would be fine with watching this with a parent guidance.
All you must do is find the legendary lost treasure of Mêlée and bring it back here.
Should I have a map or something?
Well, you can hardly expect to find a treasure without a map. And don't forget, X marks the spot.
You can also tell that this game was pretty limited on just their animation time and budget, because if this was made in a modern time, they would most definitely be zooming in on the faces of the three pirates here. So I don't think they didn't do that, of course, in the old game, because they were extremely limited in space. This was a game that was originally released on just a few floppy disks, so you're talking probably less than 10 megabytes. Eventually, a year after it came out, there was a CD-ROM version that probably improved the graphics a little bit, but by the looks of this is probably the original version. In fact, this is game and PC games of this era came out in many different versions. You'd have a potentially 16 color version that was better if you had a black and white monitor, and then you might have a 256 color version, and then games slightly after this would go with the CD-ROM version and have talking in them. And nowadays it's all just downloaded through the internet. Let's call them a bunch of foul-smelling, grog-swilling pigs.
You're a bunch of foul-smelling, grog-swilling pigs.
To be a pirate, you must also be a foul-smelling, grog-swilling pig.
What's in the grog stuff anyway?
What's in that grog stuff anyway?
Grog is a secret mixture which contains one or more of the following: kerosene, propylene glycol, artificial sweeteners, sulfuric acid, rum, acetone, red dye number 2, scum, axle grease, battery acid, and or pepperoni. As you can probably imagine, it's one of the most caustic, volatile substances known to man. The stuff eats right through these mugs, and the cook is losing a fortune replacing them.
So that probably is a hint that we'll need grog to eat through something at some point.
I'll just be running along now.
Leave us to our grog. Come back later and tell us how you're doing.
So now we know what we're supposed to do. We can walk to the curtains. Here they have an indicator. The scum engine, if I can talk about it, was very helpful in making games like this.
Deep beneath Monkey Island, the ghost pirate LeChuck ship lies anchored in a river of lava.
Here's the main bad guy.
Captain LeChuck, sir.
There's nothing like the hot winds of hell blowing in your face.
Oh, sir. Nothing like it.
You can see locations on the map behind him.
Sir.
It's days like this that make you glad to be dead.
Look at those special effects, the glowing in the fog.
Glad to be dead.
That's most definitely not from the original version.
Glad to be dead, right?
Oh, yes, sir. I feel so lucky that you happened to capture my ship and murdered me and everyone on board. Yes, sir. Lucky.
Glad to hear it. Now, what was it you disturbed me for?
Yes, sir. Well, you see, we might have a problem on Mêlée Island.
Problem? What possible problem could there
Watch their mouths, how they just flap up and down when they're talking.
Scared of the sea, they're afraid to take a bath.
Well, there seems to be a new pirate in town. Actually, he's a pirate wannabe. Young, inexperienced, probably nothing to worry about. Don't know why I bother you in it. I haven't taken care of myself.
Wait! I'll handle this personally. My plans are too important to be messed up by amateurs.
Yes, sir.
So what's slightly interesting about the mouth flap in this version, in this game, is compared to Day of the Tentacle, they put in a system that allowed you to not allow the mouse to flap as they're actually talking. So what they would do is they would read the, let's go ahead and save our game. Auto save, but we'll save here too. There's a cool thing here that people might miss. If you can find where to click on the water, I'm not exactly sure where. I know it's here somewhere, but it may not be at this point. And get in the water. No, it's not at this point. Well, so I'll just spoil it. He said at the beginning of the game he can hold his breath for 10 minutes. At a certain point you're allowed to get into the water, right about here. And if you stay for actually 10 minutes, you will drown after 10 minutes. But to get back to the Day of the Tentacle engine, it would listen to the audio of the game, depending on how fast your computer was. And computers were pretty slow back then. And as long as you were making, the game was playing out the audio files of the characters talking, the animation would react to that and move the mouse up and down, kind of like a puppet. Here, didn't have that technology. There were a lot of background technologies introduced into these games, and these were the original PC games and the original games in general that got put out. And on the backs of games like this, we pretty much have everything that we have now. That's going to be it for this recording. I'm going to fix whatever's going wrong with my controller. As always, I end my episodes the same way. I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos, because all of that helps me with YouTube, tells them that my videos are worth watching. If you want a friend or follow me on basically any social media site like Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Google+, Steam, Battle.net, all those links are down below in the description box. And if you go to my main YouTube channel, I've mentioned several games, and you can find a playlist on the playlist tab for each one of those games that I've covered. So go check that out. Also, when you subscribe, click that notification bell so you can get notifications. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.